Hello everyone, I hope you all are studying well. Today I am going to teach an important topic, that is plant tissue. Let's begin. Now what do you imagine when we say the word plant tissue? Plant tissue means it is of course a tissue which is present in plant, like how I said in my animal tissue lecture that the tissue which is present in animal. But the definition of tissue remains same whether it is plant tissue or animal tissue. Let's start with what is a tissue. Tissues are nothing but groups of cells that are similar in structure and they are going to work together to achieve a particular function. For example, a single cell cannot do a function of tissue. There should be more than 2, 3 or 5. There should be multiple cells that are going to work together. They will have similar structure. So they will perform similar function. So this is the definition of tissue, irrespective of whether it is a plant tissue or animal tissue. Now when you talk about multicellular organisms, from the word multi itself you will get to know that they have more than one cell. Tissues will provide the function for protection, mechanical strength, and it is going to provide highest efficiency to the living organism. Now in this topic we are going to learn about two types of tissues. First is the simple tissue and the second part is the complex tissues. In simple tissue we are going to learn there are three main type of tissues: parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. In the topic of complex tissue, we will be learning about two complex tissues like xylem and phloem. Let's begin with parenchyma tissue. First of all, we will see in every tissue where they are located, what is the shape of the cell, what is the function and what is the nature of the cell. Nature of the cell means how do they look, what functions do they carry on, like that way. So location, it is present in every soft part of the plant. For example, you see a leaf or you see the root irrespective of whether it is a tap root or fibrous root or any other kind of root. So root is considered as a soft part of the plant. So parenchyma tissue will be present in root, it is present in flower, it is present in fruits, it is present in the stem region, the growing part of the plant. The shape of these cells are isometric and the nature of the cell, it is always loosely packed, which means that there is no much place between two adjacent cells. So that's why it is having a large intercellular space. That means the distance between one cell to another cell is differing in very large distance. So that is why they are loosely packed. They are living cell, means they are having a power of division. They will have nucleus, they will have cytoplasm, and as this tissue is found in a plant, it will also have central vacuole. Now vacuole is a cell organelle which is present only in plants. When we talk about animals will not have this central vacuole. So here you can see the diagram of parenchyma. In question paper, if they say you to draw parenchyma, you can either draw the transverse section or longitudinal section. So, but if they are saying you to label certain parts, it is always good to draw the longitudinal section where you can clearly label the vacuoles, you can label chloroplast, you can label cytoplasm, nucleus, the primary and secondary wall, everything. Now here in the transverse section you can see that the distance between one cell to another cell is not that much. It is having very large distances, especially when you see under the microscope, you can see that the distance between one cell and second cell is very much larger. So they are loosely packed and have large intercellular spaces. Let's start with the function of parenchyma. Parenchyma tissues, the primary function is for the storage of food and photosynthesis, and the cells which are containing the chloroplast they will be called as COLLENCHYMA. There is a mistake here. It is not COLLENCHYMA, it is COLLENCHYMA. Chloroplasts are very much essential. It is a cell organelle which will help in photosynthesis. Now, those plants which live in water, like the aquatic plants, they have large cavities. So, that type of parenchyma tissue which has large cavities in it, which will help the aquatic plants to float in water, they are called parenchyma. So parenchyma tissues containing chloroplast are called COLLENCHYMA, and parenchyma tissue containing air cavities or large vacuoles which will help in providing the buoyancy to float will be called as parenchyma. The third important thing is to store nutrients as well as water. So these are some of the basic functions of parenchyma which we need to mention in the answer sheet. Let's start with COLLENCHYMA tissue. They are present in leaf stalks below the epidermis, the midrib and veins. Now what is midrib? If this is a leaf, this particular area is called midrib, and this small lines which I am drawing with green color, they are called veins. So the red color part is the midrib and the green lines are called veins. So in that location also COLLENCHYMA tissues are present. The nature of the cells are, they are living, they are elongated. They are living means they have nucleus, they have mitochondria which will help in cell division, and they are irregularly thickened at the corners. They have heavy deposition of cellulose and pectin, and they are also very much elongated. So wherever you see the diagram of COLLENCHYMA tissue, you will see that there are irregular corners. So they have irregular corners because of this deposition of cellulose and pectin. And unlike parenchyma tissue which have very large intercellular spaces, COLLENCHYMA tissue does not have a lot of intercellular spaces, have very little intercellular space. So here you see the yellow color marked thickened corners. Yellow color marked thickened corners. There are vacuoles, and as it is a plant tissue means parenchyma, COLLENCHYMA or any plant tissue will contain cell wall also. Now we will see what are the functions of COLLENCHYMA tissue. They will provide mechanical support, because they are also called mechanical tissues providing mechanical support. They will provide support, elasticity and also flexibility, which means that they will allow easy bending without breaking. For example, if a plant or a tree has to support its branches when there is a calamity like wind or storm or heavy winds, so in that case COLLENCHYMA tissue is providing support. This can be asked that during calamity like strong winds or sandstorms, which tissue is going to allow the branches to stop from breaking. So in that case COLLENCHYMA tissue will help, because the function of COLLENCHYMA tissue is flexibility and elasticity, which means that it will allow an easy bending without actually breaking the stem or the particular leaf. Now we will come to the third simple tissue, that is sclerenchyma tissue. The location is, they are present in stems, veins of the leaf and hard cover. Wherever you see the hard cover of a seed or all the different type of nuts, and also in coconut you can see that this hard cover sclerenchyma tissue is present. Now how are the nature of the cells? They are very long, they are narrow and they have thick walls. They are thickened. Why? Because of the deposition of lignin. And they are closely packed. Unlike parenchyma or COLLENCHYMA, they do not have any intercellular spaces at all, which means that there is no space between two cells. The cells, they are dead. They are dead means they have no cytoplasm, they have no nucleus, nothing. That is called dead. When we say the cell is living, it has nucleus, it has mitochondria, it has cytoplasm, everything, and will undergo photosynthesis. The cell is dead means no cytoplasm and no nucleus also. So this is the structure of sclerenchyma tissue. They can either say give the longitudinal section or transverse section, but both are sclerenchyma tissue itself. You should know how to identify the longitudinal section and transverse section. The transverse section is a bit similar like collenchyma tissue, so you can easily identify collenchyma and sclerenchyma tissue transverse section, but the chances are there to make mistake here to write the transverse section of sclerenchyma as collenchyma, so be careful on that. Longitudinal section is easy to identify that it is the structure of sclerenchyma. Now what are the functions of sclerenchyma tissue? Because we know that they are dead, they are very strong, so they are very hard. So it is the chief mechanical tissue which will provide strength to the other parts. They have providing protective covering for seeds, nuts. They are going to make plant hard and stiff. For example, coconut husk is made of this tissue, so they are rigid and will provide mechanical strength. So we have completed simple tissues, parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, with the nature of cells, where they are located, their diagrams, their functions. Now we will start with complex tissues, that is xylem and phloem. Xylem and phloem are the only two complex tissues which we are learning. Now there are different components or different elements when we come to complex tissues. Like xylem have different elements and phloem have different elements. So different elements of xylem: xylem vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem tracheates, xylem fibers, or xylem sclerenchyma. Don't get confused that xylem fibers are also called as xylem sclerenchyma. Now phloem have sieve tube, sieve cells, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. So here also phloem fibers can also be said as phloem sclerenchyma. Both the meanings are same. Now we will start with xylem. Xylem, first point you will write is it is a complex tissue. It is vascular, will help in the transport of water and minerals from root to the leaves and other part of the plant, and it is also a mechanical tissue. So important things to mention when it comes to xylem is it will transport water and minerals from root to the leaves and all the other plants, and only in one direction. That means xylem will have a unidirectional flow. It will have unidirectional flow. They have 6 thick walls which are made of lignin also. Now we will start with the explanation of what is xylem vessels. Xylem vessels, they are cylindrical tube like, and they are placed one above the other, and they are non-living cells with lignified walls. That means they have lignin in their walls. Now xylem tracheates, they are non-elongated cells with tapering ends. They are highly lignified. Here also they have lignin, but you can see that there are pits over there. So it is only in this region of pits that this lignin is not present. Now xylem parenchyma, we know that parenchyma tissue, the word parenchyma itself, we will understand that it is a living cell. So xylem parenchyma is also a living cell. It will help in the storage of food and also the conduction of water, which we have already learned in the parenchyma tissue part. As it is living cell, you can see in the diagram this particular tissue has nucleus as well as cytoplasm. Now xylem fibers, the word xylem fibers also we can say it as xylem sclerenchyma, and we know sclerenchyma means it is dead, which means that it is non-living, it is thick walls or it is rigid, and that's why it will provide mechanical support and strength. Okay, so now we have completed all the components of xylem. that is xylem vessels, xylem parenchyma, xylem tracheates, and xylem fibers or xylem sclerenchyma. You will only need to learn all these components and write the differentiation according to whatever points I have given in the form of sentence. You can easily write all these points. Now we will start with the second complex tissues, that is phloem. Phloem is also a complex tissue, but here it is not going to transport water, it will transport food. It will transport food and other minerals from the leaf to all part of the plant. Like it will transport water and food. But here, unlike xylem, which is going to transport water and minerals only in one direction, phloem will transport water, it will transport food and minerals in both the directions, that is from root to leaf and from leaf to root. This is the structure of phloem, and here are the different components written, that is sieve tube, sieve, phloem parenchyma, companion cells. So this is the phloem. Sieve plate is also there. So you don't need to briefly learn what is sieve plate, sieve tube or sieve cells, but you can always have the basic idea. We will learn in the previous slides what are that in briefly. You don't need to explain elaborately in 9th grade. Sieve tube means it's a particular structure which will help as a main conducting element. It is elongated, it is cylindrical in shape. Here you can see label of sieve tube. It has perforated ends and having a thin layer of cytoplasm, but it does not have nucleus. This is an important thing to mention, that sieve tube does not have nucleus. It does not have nucleus, but it is a living cell. So this is important exception to note, that sieve tube don't have nucleus, then also it is a living cell. So this is important point to mention for sieve tube. Now what are sieve cells? They are elongated, they have tapering ends, they will conduct food, and a sieve cell is a living cell. Now companion cells, we know that sieve tube, we said over here sieve tube does not have a nucleus, but it is a living cell. So how it is considered as a living cell? Although it does not have a nucleus, it is because it is taking the help of companion cells. Yes, because sieve tube and companion cells are associated with each other. So companion cells, they are smaller cells, they have cytoplasm, they have nuclei, and it is going to help the sieve tube to conduct food materials. Now because it will help the sieve tube to conduct food materials, sieve tube is called as a living cell, although it does not have a nucleus. So this is the relation between sieve tube and companion cells. Both these are associated with each other. Now phloem parenchyma, it is thin walled, it is living cell, and of course it will help in the conduction of water, it will help in storage and photosynthesis. So parenchyma, we have already learned in previous slides what are the functions of parenchyma. Now phloem fibers, also called sclerenchyma, we have learned its functions also, like mechanical strength, support, it is lignified, it has lignin all over, and it is dead or non-living, and it is thick walled and elongated. So the most common question from complex tissue part is differentiate between xylem and phloem. So you can mention all these points. First of all, important points, I have actually made it from most important, and like that way as it go down you can mention the points according to how much marks is mentioned in your question paper. But important points, first thing, it is non-living or a dead tissue, and phloem is living. Now in second point you will write the components. The component means, in previous slides you can check the components of xylem, the xylem fibers, xylem parenchyma, all that thing, xylem tracheates, xylem vessels, and in phloem also, like Likewise, you can see the previous slides to write the second points. Now, xylem transport water and minerals from root to leaf and only in upward direction, and phloem part transport food and other minerals from leaf to all the other part of plants in bidirectional way. Bidirectional means from up to down and from down to up. Xylem has dead cells which are tracheate, vessels and xylem fibers, whereas phloem has more number of living cells, sieve tubes, companion cells and phloem parenchyma. Phloem has only one dead cell, that is phloem fibers or phloem sclerenchyma. So this is mostly asked for 5 marks in your exams, so like that way you can actually figure out which points you have to write. Now the most important other part which can come for either 2 or 3 marks, explain meristematic tissue or draw the structure of meristematic tissue, is a less common question. But what is meristematic tissue or define meristematic tissue? For that you need to learn this part, that meristematic tissue, first of all, the regions where it is located. It is located in growing parts of the plant, like the shoot tip or the root tip. Shoot tip means the tip of shoot and root tip means the tip of the root, the end part of the root and the end part of the shoot. It is an actively dividing tissue and as I mentioned, growing part of the plant, and not in all the part of plant, only in growing part of the plant, only in some regions they are located. You can mention the characteristics. They have thin wall, they are living and they are arranged without spaces. They are having very dense cytoplasm, thin cellulosic wall, prominent nuclei, and they do not have any vacuole. Meristematic tissues do not have any vacuole. So they can ask this in assertion and reason questions or true and false question, whether meristematic tissues have vacuoles or not. So meristematic tissues does not have vacuoles. Let's see what are the 3 types of meristems: apical meristem, intercalary meristem and lateral meristem. The other name for lateral meristem is also called as cambium. So this is the most important diagram which will come. This one, apical meristem present in the tip of shoot. Then this is intercalary meristem and lateral meristem. Let's see in more detail. Apical meristem in this particular region, topmost region, intercalary meristem in the middle and lateral meristem in the bottom. Now what is apical meristem? Apical meristem is present in the growth tip of stem or the root, and the function is to increase the length of stem and root. So who is going to increase the length of the entire plant? It is the apical meristem. Now the second type of meristem is intercalary meristem. We saw that it is present in the middle part of the plant, like the base of your leaf or the base of the internodes. You can see intercalary meristem, and the function is to increase the length of nodes and internodes. Lateral meristem is present in the lateral side of the stem and root, and the function is to increase the girth. Girth is also called as the width of the stem or the root. So this was about meristematic tissues and their different types. Now what do you mean by epidermis? So this is also mostly a 2-mark question. What is epidermis, or write some points on epidermis. So you can write epidermis is a protective tissue and is going to cover the plant body. Who is going to do the covering of the plant body is epidermis. Now epidermis are also, upper epidermis is there, lower epidermis is there, but we don't need to go into more detail. But who is going to do the protective function, who is going to provide the covering to the plant body is epidermis. It's normally going to protect it from any insect attack or any pest attack or any injury, any physical weather, from physical weather or from harsh extreme weather, epidermis will provide as a covering to the plant body, protection against water, heavy water, floods, injury, invasion, all these things, invasion of the parasite attack, insect attack, many things like that. Exchange of gases, that is called transpiration. So it will also help in exchanging of oxygen, carbon dioxide. It will absorb water from the soil through the hairs. Here it is the root hairs. So absorption of water from soil through the root hairs. And in case of dry habitats like the cactus plants or the plants in the desert, the cuticle of the epidermis will be helping to reduce excessive evaporation of water. Excessive evaporation of water because in the desert areas much water the plants don't get, so they need to conserve more and more water. So in that case the cuticle of the epidermis is there. So you can see in this diagram the upper topmost layer is the cuticle. So cuticle is beneficial more for plants in the desert area, is to conserve more and more water, so the evaporation is less. So in that case cuticle will be essential. Now we will see the other topic, that is cork. Cork is also a protective tissue. We can see that epidermis is also a protective tissue covering the plant body, and cork is also called as a protective tissue. Plants which are growing older and older, the outer layer, if you see that the plant in the younger age will have a different surface of outer layer, and the plant which is growing and growing, it is older and older, will develop a different layer as it is growing. So this, when the plants they grow, the outer layer will have some or the other changes, either in physical appearance or naturally. So in that case there is a meristem. We said that meristem, there is upper meristem, lower meristem. So the secondary meristem in that case is called as the epidermis of the stem. So that will, the outer cells, they will cut off this layer. Which layer? They will cut off this epidermis of stem or the secondary meristem, the outer layer of the bark or the outer layer of that particular plant. They are going to cut off the secondary meristem, also called as the epidermis of stem, and they will form several thick cork. So after cutting the epidermis of stem, they will form a thick cork. So this thick cork is actually called as the bark of tree. Okay, and bark of tree, you get, how you will get the bark of tree? When plants grow older and older, certain changes will happen in the outer surface. There will be a strip of secondary meristem, which is also called as the epidermis of stem, which will cut the outer layer, and after cutting the outer layer you will get a thick cork, which is also called as the bark of tree. So cork is nothing but it is dead, it is compactly arranged without any space, and it has special chemical called suberin in their walls, which is going to help the plant be impervious to gas and water. It will not allow the plant to be in contact with gas and water. It will not allow the gas or water to go inside because it has special chemical called suberin in them. So this is the important point in cork, that is the importance of suberin. Chemical called suberin in the walls will make the plant impervious to gas and water, which means that it will not allow the gases and water to penetrate inside. So the formation of cork may not be important, but the nature of cork, that is, it is dead, it is compactly arranged without any space, and about the special chemical it has, that is very much important point when it comes to this protective tissue cork. Here you can see This is a old plant, and the secondary meristem or the epidermis of the stem, they are going to get cut by the outer layer and a cork will appear. So these are the different layers present in the wood. Right now you only need to see what is cork. When it comes to higher grades, you will learn what is croc cambium, secondary phloem and vascular cambium. At this point of study, you have to only learn this brown color surface which you are seeing is called as the cork, and it will only be seen in the older plants. Now we will start the most common topic, that is stomata. Stomata, you have learned they are minute openings or pores which are present in the lower epidermis of leaves and the green stem. If you see leaf has upper epidermis and lower epidermis. So stomata, if you see under the microscope, you will see minute openings, also called as pores, and they are mostly present in the lower epidermis of leaves. So that is called stomata, and only the openings are called stomata. And when they are surrounded by kidney shaped cells, they are called guard cells. So guard cells are the one which is going to control the opening and closing of stomata. This is the most common and important question, that which structure is going to control the opening and closing of stomata. They are the guard cells surrounding the stomata, which will help in opening and closing. So you can see the difference of when the stomata is open, there is a large space, and when the stomata is closed, there is a small space. Here the most common identification you have to do is the guard cells and the stomatal pore and the chloroplast, nucleus and vacuole. You will not be asked to label epidermal cells or inner thick wall or anything like that, but the most common in guard cells, vacuoles, stomatal pore, and nucleus and chloroplast also, but you can mostly think about guard cells identification. What are the functions of stomata? They will help in exchange of gases between atmosphere and plant body, that is called transpiration. So stomata will help in transpiration. Now we have completed the plant tissue topic entirely. We have discussed about stomata, we have discussed about cork, epidermis, what are the three different type of simple tissues with their functions, nature, location, diagrams. We have also discussed about complex tissues, their functions, components, and what will you write when they asked for differentiation between xylem and phloem. So you can easily use these notes for learning the entire plant tissue topic in a very concise manner. So let's see the overview of plant tissues. Let's see why most plants tissue are dead. Why they are dead? So they are dead. We see animal tissue, most animal tissues are living. But why most plant tissues are dead? They are dead because they cannot move from one region to another. They do not have to move from one region to another, means they will need less maintenance and they need more mechanical strength. So because they need more mechanical strength, they need support. Most of the plant tissues, they are dead. And the growth tissues in plants, they are limited to a certain region. After a certain limit, they will not grow. So that is why the answer why most plant tissues are dead, because plants do not have to move from one place to another. So they need less maintenance. But along with less maintenance, they need mechanical strength and support. So they are dead. And also the growth of the plants, they are only limited to a certain region. After a certain time, they will not grow in size. So this was the complete answer. I hope that you have understood the entire topic of plant tissues. So we have completed this topic successfully. If you have any doubts, please mention in the comment box. I'll be happy to clear all your doubts. Thank you.